Second part of A Place for Frogs. Move it over here. All right. Paragraph 11. Some tadpoles have trouble surviving when people add fish to lakes and ponds. When people take out the fish, frogs can live and grow. And here we have the Sierra Nevada yellow-legged frog. Because the lakes high in the Sierra Nevada mountains are so beautiful, people thought it would be fun to go fishing there. They added tons of trout to the lakes. Trout is a type of fish. It didn't take long for the fish to devour most of the yellow-legged tadpoles. So these fish ate, devour means ate, all of their babies. When scientists noticed the problem, they convinced people to remove the trout. Then the frog population began to recover. So convinced means they kind of like had to tell them all the reasons why. And then recover means that there are now more frogs there. It's getting better. Okay. Frogs have trouble surviving when their natural homes are destroyed. Many frogs lay eggs in wetlands that dry up in the summer. When people protect these part-time ponds, frogs can live and grow. So what this is saying is that in the maybe in the fall and winter, there are ponds, these little things here, but then as it gets warmer, they evaporate and it's just a piece of land. So here we have a Houston toad, and Houston is a huge city in Texas where it doesn't really ever get too cold. In the 1960s, people started building homes, businesses, and parking lots on the land where Houston toads lived. As workers filled in temporary ponds, Houston toads began to disappear. But now scientists realize how important the pools are. And when they're saying pools, they're talking about the little pieces of water. They have asked people to build fences around the pools so Houston toads have a place to lay their eggs. If people protect enough ponds, the toads can make a comeback, which means the toads there can start being more of them. So again, this is what they would consider to be a pool. It is also a synonym with the word pond. This one is an interesting little story, especially when you just look here. This would have freaked me out a bit. Paragraph 15. Frogs that lay eggs in part-time ponds live in nearby forests. They travel to the pools each spring to mate and lay eggs. Sometimes they are killed when they try to cross busy roads. When people make the trip safer, frogs can live and grow. So here, this is a very special event that happens in this location. Never heard of this before. Wood frog. Frogs don't know that roads are dangerous, and drivers can't always stop in time. In some towns, people watch for wood frogs on warm, rainy nights in early spring. When they see the migrating frogs, the caring citizens stop traffic while the frogs hop across the road. So here is an example. They're over here watching for the frogs, and once they start seeing them start trying to cross the road, they stop the traffic so that they can get all across safely. All right. Some frogs can only survive in sunny, open woodlands. When people work to restore, which means make these places better, so they're going to restore these wild places, frogs can live and grow. Here we have the gopher frog. At one time, natural wildfires regularly burned back plants in areas where the gopher frogs live. But when people settled in that area, they put out the fires. Some plants grew large, crowding out the smaller plants the gopher frogs or the gopher tadpoles depend on for food and shelter. So let me just explain that. in the world, there are natural wildfires. We know this. There are man-made wildfires, but there are also just natural wildfires. And actually, natural wildfires are a good thing for our environment. However, man-made are not. So anyway, they had these natural fires, but these people put them out. So these plants got so big that these tadpoles and these frogs couldn't get what they needed to get bigger. So they needed food and shelter, but these plants took what they needed. So in the spring, the big plants sucked up wetland water before the tadpoles could develop into frogs. I'm going to pause for just a second. My dog keeps scratching. I guess my dog wants to hear about the gopher frogs. So the plants, so just imagine, like, plants that are bigger, they need more water. So they used up all the water that the tadpoles were living in, because tadpoles have to live in water. Frogs can live on land and water, but tadpoles must be in water. So when the scientists noticed this problem, they began to carefully burn some of the forest areas so gopher frogs can survive. And actually, they do this in the Indianapolis Zoo. Every so often, they do what's called a controlled burn, where they burn down some of the plants so that other animals can have a better, healthier life. All right, what's our next one? Okay. Other frogs depend on wetlands surrounded by thick, low shrubs. Shrubs would be bushes or plants, so all of these things right along here would be shrubs. When people work to save these watery worlds, frogs can live and grow. So here we have the pine Barrens tree frog. In the late 1950s, the members of a county planning board in New Jersey proposed cutting down a pine land forest and building an airport. The project would have destroyed dozens of ponds where pine Barrens tree frogs live. Fortunately, scientists and citizens worked together to stop the project and protect the land forever. Thanks to their efforts, pine barren tree frogs will always have a place to live. Oh, I like this one a lot. This one's really interesting. Some frogs can only live in cool, dark, rocky places. So here's what our picture looks like. When people clean up and protect these natural areas, frogs can live and grow. So this is a Puerto Rico rock frog, and this one just shocked me. The Puerto Rico rock frog lives in small caves in the southeastern part of Puerto Rico, an island in the Caribbean Sea or Caribbean. For many years, local people dumped their garbage in the caves. So they would go to these caves and just throw their trash down in there. That's horrible. But now the dumping has stopped and citizens are cleaning up the caves. A healthy habitat will help the frogs survive. Can you imagine just being like, oh, I'm hanging out in my cave house, and then all of a sudden trash just keeps being dumped on you? It's horrible. Ooh, how pretty is this? Okay, hold on. So this is a very tropical environment, so I can't wait to read about this. Many frogs are dying of a terrible disease caused by a fungus. So if you make a connection, we've talked about microbes in one of our previous stories, and we've talked about bacteria and viruses in science. So a fungus is a I don't even know if it's a plant, but it is like this stuff that just grows all over the place. Like a mushroom. A mushroom is a fungus. Some funguses are good, some are bad. If you have foot fungus, that's not good. Scientists think the fungus is growing and spreading quickly because Earth is warming up, and that is true. Fungus loves something that's warm. When people use less oil, coal, and natural gas to heat their homes and power their cars, it helps to slow down global warming. Then frogs can live and grow. So here we have the Harlequin Frog Okay. More than 100 kinds of harlequin frogs used to live in the rainforest of Central America, but now more than half of them are extinct, meaning they're gone forever. As we burn fossil fuels, Earth's atmosphere heats up and more clouds form over rainforest. That makes days cooler and nights warmer. These are perfect conditions for the fungus that is killing the frogs. If we can slow global warming soon, we may be able to save the harlequin frogs. All right, I'm going to stop it there, and then I'll do a part 3.